couple of weeks ago, we had the Christmas episode of our Commander gameplay series Upkeep come out. Go check that out if you haven't. It was a really fun game, but we had played White Elephant, which with a bunch of budget decks that our friend Preston had made for us. I had ended up with Millicent, Restless, Revenant, Spirit Tribal deck with a arcane spell sub-theme, which was really interesting. Part of what's fun about doing these White Elephant games is you'll end up with something that you wouldn't have planned on making yourself anyways. So while I did enjoy the deck and I have it here, I still play it, I found that it didn't hang well with against a lot of my other decks that I already have, but even the other decks in our play group. So I took it upon myself to upgrade the deck, and today I'm going to be kind of leading you through my reasoning as to the cards I cut and added, and if you want to know the full deck lists, both the version that was used in the original gameplay and the updated version, I will have links to both of those in the description of this video. Okay, let's go ahead and jump in. First of all, I added quite a few new lands. I used to have a Grand Arbiter of the Fourth deck. I took it apart because it was too mean, but as a result, I ended up with a bunch of Azorius lands that are just good that I wasn't using at the moment, so those got shoved in here just to make the land base, one, more consistent, but also just have lands that enter the battlefield tapped less often, helps speed the game up a little bit as well. I also ended up adding more control. I feel like blue-white is the ultimate control color pairing, so I wanted to lean a little bit into that. I didn't go super crazy as far as how many of those cards I added, but I did add Counterspell, Mana Drain, Mystic Confluence, cards that are just going to add a little bit more of a control element to the game, which especially since part of the upgrade process here is that I'm speeding up the game. I wanted to have uses for that extra mana to help hopefully better secure my victory. I also ended up adding 3 board wipes to the deck. I think some people tend to not like running a lot of board wipes in creature-heavy decks. However, I'm of the relatively new theory that you still want to be running a good handful of these board wipes because you just never know when your opponents are going to get so far ahead of you that even if you have a board state, it's just better to just hit the reset button and hope that you can crawl back in. A lot of the times, creature-based decks are only running like 2 board wipes, which I think is how many we're in here to begin with, but adding a few more just increases my chances of, if I really need to hard reset because one of my opponents is too far ahead of me, I actually still can have a chance. Adding better card draw and card advantage was also important. Turns out on a budget, it's hard to have a lot of really efficient card draw spells in here, so adding a couple more is really going to help, especially since there are a lot of high-costing cards in this deck. It helps make sure I always hit my land drops and always am drawing into my ramp spells as well. Which leads me into the next category. I ended up adding quite a bit more ramp, mostly just a couple more mana rocks that weren't in the deck already. Even though it looks like Millicent is a 7 mana commander, she's never actually 7 mana, but at the same time, there are, again, other big cards in the deck that I always want to make sure I can get into them. Speaking of which, the first cards that I cut were expensive creatures that have no immediate impact. It feels bad cutting creatures from a tribal deck, but at the same time, if I'm going to be paying, 5 to 7 mana for a creature, I want us to do something right away, because if I have to wait for it to be my upkeep again, or I have to attack with it, there's no guarantee that I'm going to get any real use out of that 7 mana that I just spent. So it's better to just go ahead and, even if they're cool cards, or even if they have some inherent synergy with the deck, it was better for me to just cut some of those so I can have room for these cards and get rid of cards that don't impact the board immediately. Also, even though there was an arcane sub-theme in this deck, I did end up cutting quite a few of the arcane spells. There's a couple that are still left behind, but I found that most of them just, in a generic sense, just aren't very good, so they're not necessarily worth keeping around. I also got rid of a lot of the situational protection. I think protection is good. I think Teferi's protection is a automatic staple, and then there's a couple other protection spells in the deck as well. But situational protection tends to not be great. I'd rather either know I'm safe or not. Again, if you want to see the full deck list for both the original version and the upgraded version, you can find both of those in the description of this video. Let me know if this is a video series that you would like me to capitalize on as I upgrade decks. Eventually I want to do a video where I do a rundown of all of my commander decks, and then maybe I could maybe every year tell you about any changes I made to the decks. Maybe that might be something I do. I don't know. But then also, I think we're thinking about doing this again next Christmas, so maybe that'd be a good opportunity to bring it back. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. And again, if you haven't checked out the Christmas episode, go watch it real quick, and we will be back next Friday with another new episode. See you later.